The biggest mistake is thinking Japanese people stay calm because they do not feel pressure. That is only the surface story. The deeper story is more uncomfortable. Calmness is not always a feeling, sometimes it is training. A person may be worried, tired, embarrassed, or afraid, but they have learned that their reaction does not belong only to them. It changes the room. It can make people panic, slow the work, or make a hard moment even heavier. In many places, pressure gives people permission to explode. They raise their voice, blame someone, show anger, and prove to everyone that they are stressed. But in many Japanese settings, the first rule is different. The rule is not, show how much this affects you. The rule is, do not make the situation heavier. That is why the calmness is not empty. It is not weakness, it is not robotic silence, it is social discipline under pressure. The face stays still because the group still has to function. The voice stays controlled because the problem still has to be solved. This is the hidden difference. Pressure gives you a responsibility to stabilize. And once you understand that, Japanese calmness stops looking like magic. To understand the calm, you have to stop looking at the face. You have to look at the rules behind the face. Most people are taught that emotions become real only when they are expressed loudly. If you are angry, show it. If you are stressed, announce it. If you feel insulted, react before anyone thinks you are weak. That is one rulebook. But another rulebook exists, and it teaches something very different. In that rulebook, emotional control is not fake. It is maturity. This is one reason Japanese people can appear calm under pressure. The culture does not always reward the biggest reaction. It often rewards awareness. Awareness of timing, tone, space, and the people who must continue functioning after your reaction. A worker who panics in front of customers does not only show stress, he spreads stress. A student who loses control during a difficult moment does not only struggle alone, he changes the atmosphere for everyone around him. A leader who reacts emotionally does not only express pressure, he gives the whole group permission to become unstable. So people learn to hold the first wave. They pause before speaking. They lower the voice. They choose words carefully, not because nothing is happening inside, but because the first emotion is not always allowed to drive the situation. The false belief is that calm people feel less. The truth is often that calm people have been trained to leak less. In an individual system, panic can look personal. You feel pressure, you react, you recover, and the damage seems to stay inside your own moment. But in a group-based system, panic becomes expensive because it does not stay in one person. It travels. One uncontrolled reaction can slow the room, embarrass the team, confuse the customer, or break the coordination everyone was depending on. This is the hidden system behind Japanese calmness. The goal is not always to protect personal comfort. The goal is to protect the situation. That is why the face may stay controlled even when the moment is difficult. The person is not only managing emotion, they are managing impact. You can see it in small everyday scenes. A train delay is frustrating, but people still line up. A workplace mistake is serious, but correction often comes before drama. A crowded space is uncomfortable, but people try not to make their discomfort everyone else's problem. This does not mean every Japanese person is naturally calm. It means the system teaches one powerful lesson. Your reaction is part of the environment. If you make your stress bigger, the whole space becomes heavier. And when panic is not rewarded, people stop using panic as their first tool. They learn to move through pressure without turning it into noise. But that same rule has another side. The same rule that creates order can also create silence. But there is a side of calmness people do not like to talk about. The same discipline that keeps a room stable can also teach a person to hide too much. When control becomes automatic, the outside stays peaceful while the inside becomes crowded. This is where Japanese calmness becomes more complicated. A person may keep saying, "It is fine," because they do not want to disturb the group. They may avoid asking for help because needing help feels like creating trouble. They may continue working through stress because stopping would make someone else adjust. On the outside, it looks respectful. On the inside, it can become emotional isolation. That is the hidden price of always staying composed. People admire the calm face, but they may never see the pressure behind it. The person becomes skilled at not being a problem, even when they actually have a problem. And this lesson is not only about Japan. Many people confuse emotional control with emotional disappearance. They think being strong means becoming easy to manage. But calmness is only powerful when it helps you respond clearly. It becomes dangerous when it teaches you to erase yourself quietly. The answer is not to become emotionless. The answer is to stop letting pressure choose your reaction for you. The real lesson from Japanese calmness is not hide your feelings. That is too simple. The deeper lesson is that pressure does not have to own your first reaction. Most people lose control because they treat every emotion like an emergency. Stress appears and they obey it. Anger appears and they speak from it. Fear appears and they make their world smaller around it. Then they call this honesty. But sometimes it is not honesty. Sometimes it is just pressure using your body as a microphone. Calmness begins when you create space between what happens and what you release into the world. That space is where decisions live. It is where the voice lowers, the mind stops performing panic, and the situation becomes smaller because you refuse to make your reaction bigger. But calmness should never mean self-erasure. It should mean self-command. The goal is not to look peaceful while breaking inside. The goal is to become steady enough that pressure cannot turn you into someone you do not respect. Japanese people stay calm under pressure, not because pressure disappears, but because the rulebook teaches that reaction has consequences. The calm was never the absence of emotion. It was the refusal to let pressure become the leader. Once you understand that, calmness stops being a personality trait. It becomes a strategy.